Let's make this quick. 4 words that Meghan Markle uttered before entering an Australian children's hospital for the grossest royal stunt I have ever seen. And of course, this is something real royals would never do. No wonder there is revulsion around the world for the start of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's fake royal tour down under. And let's just say there's a real reason why Australians didn't bother to show. As Nancy Sidley said, look at those crowds. And actually, when you see Harry and Meghan emerging from the car in Australia, just take a look to see if anyone other than the media, other than the MSM, bothered to show up. Now, Harry was all fake smiles, but Meghan Markle said nothing to 9 News, and I know why. My source, who works within the Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne, has revealed that when Meghan arrived, she said, "Let's make this quick." And as my source told me, such a humanitarian, not, then the acting started. Acting of her pretending to care. Now, 9 News seems to be taking the role of the Omid Scobie. Lining children up like that, who are very, very sick in a hospital, is revolting. But look at this. The children know. They always know. These kids don't want a bar of Meghan Markle. And can you blame them after their parents allowed them to be put on display like that? Now, Nancy Sidley posted that Meghan was pretending to be overwhelmed. She said Sunshine Sachs works harder than the devil and Kris Jenner combined. And certainly, I just want you to watch Meghan's faux body language going into the hospital, given what she had said just before entering. Let's make this quick. It was utterly gross, completely gross. And what I find so funny is that the Sussexes' own aides, in other words, Liam Maguire, who has been exposed as a total unprofessional over the course of this visit, reassured staff at the Children's Hospital that the couple are laid back about their titles, declaring Harry and Meghan are fine. They're pretty relaxed. We know that is not true. He then arranged for a group of about 70 staff, parents, and young patients to wait in the hospital atrium for the couple. That was that horrible scene that we saw where the children are being treated as props. They then visited the adolescent oncology and rehabilitation ward before taking part in a garden therapy session. Asked if he would like to take some Gumtree home, Harry, wearing a navy jacket, white shirt and metal bracelets, joked, "I would, but I think I'd probably get arrested at some point." In a nod to Princess Diana, the couple also visited wards at the hospital and met patients with eating disorders. But the problem is, the cameras never lie. And as Sabera Lone pointed out, this child is clearly looking around at the cameras as they are flashing. If he had any common sense, referring to Harry, he would see the child was done and tell the parent to get them out of there. How pathetic they are. This makes me mad. Queen Esther made a very good point. I'm appalled the hospital even allowed this. Someone seriously needs to be held accountable for whoever approved it. And Hans added, why are sick children being made to sit outside in wheelchairs instead of resting in their rooms? It feels gross to watch, like they're being put on display for photos rather than cared for with dignity. This comes across as deeply insensitive and quite upsetting. It is sad to watch. And the veil between us was just outraged and angry, posting, so nothing screams I'm a humanitarian and I care about children by rocking up to a children's hospital and treating it like Studio 54. Hirch and Twerch, are you listening? Of course you are, you pathetic little numpties. You disgust me. You show up at a children's hospital and line up the children that are there because they are ill in front of photographers. You used their pain, their illnesses, and their exhaustion in order to elevate and promote yourselves, just like you did at the fires in LA, just like you did at Uvalde, just like you've done at Invictus. The list goes on. I could sit here and say you're disgusting, vile, self-absorbed, self-entitled, and self-obsessed, but what would be the point? I could say read the room, but I'm not going to. Why? You couldn't read the room even if it came with bloody subtitles. And the thing is, it's funny because everything about it is so insincere. She hates it. She hates it. We can all see that. Meghan then sat down at a table and joined people eating food, telling them, "We landed here this morning, so my jet lag hasn't quite hit yet." The couple then moved together to visit a local museum where Australia's first poet laureate, Steve Cotterill, asked them, "How would you like me to address you?" Now, remember, this is Meghan Markle, a woman who demands that when she's entering a room at an empty friend's apartment, that she is announced as the Duchess of Sussex. And Harry, we know how much he cares about his title, so he shrugged. Apparently, he just shrugged and said, "However you like." In other words, you call us by our goddamn titles. Meghan Markle, seeing a PR disaster, parrots "Call me Meg," leading to the major headline in the Daily Mail, which I think is so disingenuous because we know there is nothing down to earth about this woman. Let me remind you of what she said before entering the children's hospital. Let's make this quick. The Royal News Network, though, did sense that Meghan was loving the attention. Having looked at the video she posted, you can feel the glee from Meghan, an adoring crowd that pays what she always wants. The thirst for the adoration is palpable. But this won't fix her failing business or career in Hollywood. This visit also highlights how useless they are. There are camera clicks, sure, and attempts to look caring when faced with real suffering. But as a reminder, these two nincompoops can do nothing, can provide nothing, and have zero ability to enact any meaningful change beyond listening for the billionth time. A pathetic waste of hospital time, resources, and care to feed this women's deluded ego. And according to Taz, she picked up something darker, actually, and it was based on a particular photo. And she wrote, "I thought I'd just poke fun at this tour, but the hospital stunt has really disgusted me. Nothing about this is okay. Leave children out of your publicity stunts. You hide your children to protect them, but happily use other people's children to try and repair your image. Vultures." And then specifically in reference to this picture, and there is something so deeply uncomfortable about that. Tash added, "Children, no. I'm sorry, but seeing all these people, security, photographers and reporters all gathered together inside a hospital is pretty sickening. Getting everyone to line up and Meghan manically grinning at the crowd and waving, this isn't even a private hospital visit." And Lady Colin Campbell asked an almost identical question, posting, "Why are Harry and Meghan visiting a hospital when they are on a commercial visit to Australia? They're not working royals. They should not be using charity to muddy the waters in the hope that these money-grubbing hustlers will be mistaken for individuals who care about charity. Both of them have already shown us how they cynically capitalize upon charity, using it as a Trojan horse to gain access to others' scoffers through their behavior. In the last few years, especially at the Centre Bali polio match in Florida, and the hospital in question is little better. How dare they take sick children out of their beds and line them up like sitting ducks for a photo op with these two rapacious, money-grabbing, disloyal jerks who use everyone and everything as fodder to satisfy their greed for money and attention." However, the propagandists for Harry and Meghan were out in force. Chief Sussex squatter Narinder Kaur saying, "Look at the love. This reminds me of the Princess Diana years. They are clearly a phenomenon." Not so when it comes to her fashion, though, with Meghan actually being compared to Ted Bundy for this outfit. Meanwhile, people who were close to Harry and Meghan on board the Qantas business class flight they arrived in, gosh, they must have hated not being able to afford to fly private, said of the Duchess, "I don't like her at all. Don't come to Australia. You don't belong here. We don't want you here." And actually, that was what I was picking up from Australians. I mean, you know, I have so many friends in Australia, so much family in Australia. I speak to Australians every single day. And I think what went down very badly is that it doesn't matter where in the world they are, Harry and Meghan decided to pick a fight regarding their security, arriving in Australia every single day. In fact, one of my sources there said that Kevin Costner is in Australia at the moment. doing a very similar trip without any of this baloney. At least Australian politicians have the balls to say what ours in the UK don't. Send them the security bill. The issues are talking about the fact that these young children were used in the most appalling manner. As Harry Meghan's spare put it, this child wants nothing to do with her. And our royal mastermind, Prince Harry's biographer Angela Levin, replied saying, quite right. When Nancy Sidley posted another image saying smile for the camera kid, Angela replied, too terrible for words. Meghan is such a ruthless woman. And she absolutely is. Totally ruthless. Angela added, no private citizen would behave like them, have protection, and get very ill children moved from their bed and put in a row for them to see. And Angela Levin joins me now. Angela, we have obviously been covering this couple for a long time, but sometimes there's a sight that we see in this reporting that still shocks us to our very core. And I think those images from Melbourne Children's Hospital is one of those moments. And what do you make of my exclusive reporting today, Angela, that before entering the hospital, Meghan was heard saying, let's make this quick. She couldn't even be bothered, Angela, to give those children her time. She was using them for the photos.
Yes, it's breathtaking, isn't it, really? We know she's not interested, and children can feel that she doesn't like children and they're not interested in being with her. So she just thinks, okay, I'll go on to do something else. But actually, for me, to see all these very, very ill children, and some of them are walking, they weren't eating, very, very sad. And how could they make it certain for Meghan that it was okay? I mean, Meghan and other people should have gone to the beds and spoke to them while they were there. Small children would have no idea who she was. They wouldn't know she was a princess. She wouldn't know that she had any titles whatsoever. And I think I'm really shocked by the hospital allowed this to happen. And I wondered if it was Meghan and Harry shouting at them or whether they got a lot of money. But certainly I cannot believe that these children who are so vulnerable, and there were so many people in the room, masses of them, which must be encouragement for people to come in. It's not just happened. And they could catch anything that's going round, and they're very vulnerable. And most of them had mechanics near them that would help if they weren't well. I mean, really thoroughly ill. And how can you do that for children? It just made me feel angry, beyond angry. I was stamping about the room, just thinking, how can she do that? And what it is, and I think it's very, very dangerous, is that she doesn't care anymore. She is going to get and down with the king, down with William, down with everybody, because she is so strong and powerful and will not give in, that she can win any race. And that's what I think. It's now that she's not nervous, she's not anything, except she clutches on to Harry, which also makes me feel ridiculous, holding hands and his arm. I mean, it's such a ridiculous thing to do at that age, when you're supposed to be the people who are charming and looking after and gentle. But no, she's got to hold hands. But I do think that this is the sort of aperitif that will allow her to make what's happening when they get to the UK very easy. She's going to go on and on and on and on. She doesn't care about anyone else. It shows she doesn't care about the young children. She doesn't care about the people who are really ill. It's just about, she's got to be seen. She wants to be surrounded by people. And what's very interesting as well is that she's not got any necklace on, no breath, anything. And she's been told to look very serious and to be, sensible and calm down, because she was told off for wearing so much jewellery last time. And so she's doing that. She's pretending now that she's a very serious person. I just think it's beyond anything. I've never seen anything so terrible. Actually, rows of very, very ill children in to the waiting for her to come in and walk by, because that way it only takes sort of 6, 7 seconds to say hello, how are you? Off I go. I've never seen anything so horrible.
I
If you
know.
get Catherine, first of all, the children warm to her immediately, but she gives them the sort of fun and gentle. Meghan has just got to get what she needs. She needs it after, 10 seconds, and then she's off to the next person. And laughing, such a phony laugh. Did you think that laugh was anything other than phony? Drives me mad, actually. I was really, if you'd see me, you'd say I was going lunatic. I was walking up and down. I can't bear this behaviour.
I know.
To do that to children. Can't see any of them. There are pictures of Harry holding young children with a picture. We can see the face, we saw him in front, and yet they won't let anybody see their child. It doesn't make any sense. How dare they do that as well? Did the parent know that Harry would hold that child, or Meghan would talk to a child who was obviously extremely ill, absolutely white-faced and upset and not happy about life? Of course not. You could see she's extremely ill, and you have to go there and sort of, there they are, this is that child, and just talk to her and try to make her to say something to you. But why should she?
That should
There
not
we
have
are.
been done
I'm
in
just
public.
so angry.
No, it should not have been done in public. And Angela, I don't want to make you any more angry, but as a proud Jewish woman, I wonder how you feel about the rumours. At this point, I should stress they are rumours, but that Harry and Meghan are going to try and use the Bondi beach attack, the Islamist terror attack that took place in Sydney, killing all of those people who were celebrating an important Jewish religious holiday, that they are going to use that for a publicity stunt. We've seen Liam Maguire, pictures of Liam Maguire, their PR, via the Daily Mail, actually visiting the scene of Bondi and what is believed to be a recce. Now, this would feel to me, Angela, to be particularly tone deaf after they visited charities in the Middle East that were staffed by people who were anti-Israel terrorist supporters.
Egmont 1. The comment that sparked a new controversy. Host. The latest debate centers on a reported comment allegedly made by Meghan Markle during the Sussexes' 2018 royal tour of Australia. According to claims repeated in several royal books and media reports, Meghan was said to have remarked, "Make this quick," before meeting a group of children during an official visit. Critics argue that, if accurately reported, such a comment would appear inconsistent with the compassion and patience expected during royal engagements. However, it's important to remember that the alleged remark comes from published accounts and unnamed sources rather than an official recording or direct confirmation from Meghan herself. That distinction remains central to the ongoing debate. Segment 2. Looking back at the 2018 Australia tour. Host. The Australia tour marked one of the most significant moments of Harry and Meghan's time as working members of the royal family. It was their first major overseas tour after their wedding and attracted enormous public attention. Crowds gathered across Australia, Fiji, Tonga, and New Zealand, while media coverage followed nearly every appearance the couple made. At the time, many observers praised the enthusiasm shown by the public and described the tour as a successful introduction of the Duchess of Sussex to international royal duties. Only later did reports begin emerging that suggested there had been challenges behind the scenes. Segment 3. Reports of behind-the-scenes tensions. Host. Following the tour, a number of royal authors and journalists published accounts describing tensions within the royal household. These reports included claims of disagreements involving palace staff, scheduling issues, and differing expectations about royal protocol. Some commentators argue that these stories reveal the pressures Meghan faced while adapting to royal life. Others believe they point to difficulties in working relationships during that period. Because many of these accounts rely on anonymous sources, they remain the subject of continuing disagreement. Segment 4. Public expectations of the royal family. Host. One reason this story continues to generate attention is the unique expectations placed upon members of the royal family. Official engagements often involve hospitals, charities, schools, and organizations supporting vulnerable communities. These visits are designed not only to raise awareness but also to provide encouragement and recognition for those involved. As a result, any suggestion that a royal appeared impatient or disengaged naturally attracts significant public interest. At the same time, supporters argue that isolated anecdotes should not define years of charitable work and public service. Several years after Harry and Meghan stepped away from royal duties, stories from their time within the monarchy continue to resurface. Books, documentaries, interviews, and media reports have repeatedly revisited events from their relatively short period as senior working royals. For critics, these reports reinforce existing concerns about the couple's conduct. For supporters, they represent ongoing attempts to revisit disputed claims without definitive evidence. The differing interpretations highlight just how divided public opinion remains. The renewed interest in this story also demonstrates how royal commentary has evolved. Old reports frequently return to public attention after being referenced in new books, interviews, or online discussions. Commentary channels often combine historical accounts with current events, creating renewed interest in stories that originally received attention years earlier. This makes it increasingly important to distinguish between first-hand evidence, reported claims, anonymous sourcing, and personal interpretation. Carefully evaluating each source helps viewers form more informed opinions. Whether fair or unfair, stories like this continue to influence public perceptions of Meghan Markle. Supporters maintain that she has been subjected to extraordinary levels of media scrutiny throughout her time in public life. Critics argue that repeated allegations from multiple sources deserve serious consideration. Ultimately, opinions often depend on how individuals assess the credibility of the reporting and the broader context surrounding each claim. That explains why discussions about Meghan continue to generate passionate responses years after the original events took place. The renewed focus on the 2018 Australia tour illustrates how stories from Harry and Meghan's time as working royals continue to shape conversations about the royal family. While the alleged comment discussed in this video has been widely repeated in commentary and published accounts, it has not been independently verified through official evidence. As always, distinguishing between confirmed facts, reported allegations, and personal opinion remains essential when evaluating stories involving public figures. Now we'd like to hear from you. Do you think older royal stories deserve renewed attention when new reports emerge, or should greater weight be given to verified evidence before drawing conclusions? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest coverage of the royal family, Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, King Charles, Prince William, and the biggest royal stories making headlines.